Good morning. This is a virtual PBX-admin training. Sorry for this slightly late start here. We do record these trainings, so if you can't stay for the whole time, that's fine. You can always come back later. We aim for these trainings to be about 30 to 40 minutes, give or take, mostly on depending on load times. Uh, I'm going to be referring to the links in the show notes, especially the support link. Basically, the links, the support link will let you search for a particular feature to get the step-by-step directions. I'm mostly going to be telling you where things are in this training, and I'll dive deeper into some of the features, but not all of them. So to start off with here, you have our dash login page. This is at dash.virtualpbx.com. To get logged in, we need three pieces of information. The first is your username. That's your email address, and that should be in all lowercase letters. Then your password, which is case sensitive, and then your account name, which is not case sensitive. If you have trouble logging in, just above the sign in button, there's a forgot your info link on the right. If you click on that and then fill out the resulting form, still need that email address, and then we need one of the two following pieces of information, either the account name or a phone number that's on the account. Click on the reset password button there. That is going to send you an email. In the body of the email, there'll be a link that will temporarily log you in to change your password. If you try to go away from that page, it will log you out. Also, once you're done changing your password, it will also log you back out and take you to the login page. You can then click on the Remember Me button, but type in that new password that you set and click on Login or Sign In. When you get logged in, you'll be taken to the dashboard page, which gives you a snapshot of what your system is currently set up as. Up here at the top, you have your name. You can click on your name at any time. It's going to give you a big pop-up. Starts you off on your user account page, which this is where you would go to change your password, for instance. As a system admin on the left, you can click on account. So you can update some account level settings. The most common thing changed here is the time zone and language, right? So that way your system time is correct for your time zone versus the default of Pacific. Admins can also manage add-ons to the account. These are additional features that will usually increase your bill. These include virtual text forward, multiple auto attendants, dynamic caller ID, and advanced reporting. There'll be a pop-up letting you know what that additional monthly charge is. You have to confirm on that pop-up before that feature is enabled, and that charge will then show up on your next invoice. Under the billing section, we have the billing portal, and this accesses the customer control panel. That's where you would go to update your payment information, as well as see previous invoices. Any system admin can click on cancel account here, and when the page refreshes, there'll be a red cancel button over here on the far right. You click on that, fill out the form, and the account will close at the end of the current billing cycle. You'll get a final invoice at that time, and then your account will be closed. Click on the close at the top right. I'm taking back to the dashboard page. And here, back up here at the top right, you have a D&D toggle standing for Do Not Disturb. Mine is currently active, meaning I'm not taking calls. Right? I click on it again, it'll be mostly black, which means I'm accepting calls. Little phone icon here opens a new tab, takes you to webphone.virtualtext.net. That page has a login. So if you have a web phone device on your user, you can use your dash login information to log into this page. And this allows you to use Chrome or Firefox on a computer to make and receive calls. Little chat bubble here. This opens up a new tab, takes you to virtualtext.app. That page has its own login information. That's where you would go to make use of virtual text or the business SMS feature. Question mark icon. This opens up a chat window at the bottom right of your browser so you can speak to our support staff. The hamburger icon, three horizontal lines. This is our menu icon. This takes you to other dash features, which we'll talk about briefly. And then the arrow to the right is your logout button. Skipping down here in the middle, total users, I have 5. I have 5 people on my account who make and receive calls. Our plans are based on a per user basis, so the more users you have, the higher your bill. Then I have my total devices. I have 14 and a breakdowns of the types. The main thing to know is that depending on your plan, adding VoIP phones could incur charges. And generally speaking, especially if you have users with multiple devices, adding that second or third VoIP phone will typically incur a charge. That includes the SIP phone, just physical hardware VoIP phone, soft phones, or the web phone. Total numbers, I have 12 phone numbers on the account. I'm paying an overage here. Again, most of our plans, you get one local number for your main number, and then the Pro plan and above, you also get a local number per user. Toll-free numbers are $4.99 per month each. And additional numbers above that are $4.99 per each, unless you have international numbers, which might be more. Conference bridges, I have 2. That means I've enabled the conference feature on 2 of my users. That means they host or moderate a conference. Over here to the top right, my main conference or my main number block here, these 3 numbers, they go to the same part of my system. They all play the same main greeting, for instance. Main conference number, you can have multiple conference room numbers if you want. They go to the same set of conference rooms where the callers are prompted to enter the conference room number and then the PIN number to join. Fax box number, you can have one main fax box number, and this is your inbound fax number. This also allows you to edit the fax box to allow for outbound faxing if you are so inclined. Company directory, these are 2 links here. The first is CSV. This is just a CSV file that you can open with your favorite spreadsheet program, and it's going to show all your users with their names, their email addresses, their extension number, and their devices. The soft phone file is for use with the VirtualPBX desktop soft phone application. So if you're using our soft phone app on a Mac or Windows PC, you can download this file and then upload it to your soft phone on your computer. In your contact list, you'll see your other staff members who have VirtualPBX soft phones, and you'll see the status of their VirtualPBX soft phones, i.e. whether they're on a call or not. VirtualPBX Store, this opens up a new tab, takes you to store.virtualpbx.com, where you can order things like VoIP phones or headsets, etc. The account realm, this is unique to each account. Each account has its own account realm. It's one of the 3 pieces of information you need to set up a third-party soft phone, meaning someone else's soft phone app. And it's also part of what is needed to send an outbound fax, which we'll get to later. Up here, this blue bar, we have the caller ID button here, which you can click on. You can open up a little pop-up. This pull down here to the right, this lets you select any of your main numbers on the account, and that phone number becomes your default number. So like your VoIP phones, for instance, would use that as their outbound caller ID by default. So click which one to select and then save changes. Hold music, this allows you to upload your own media file. The system will play back .wav and .mp3 files up to 1 megabyte in size. You would click on the little upload button here, click on browse to find the relevant file on your device, click the up arrow icon and save changes. This will become the default hold music for all your staff members' VoIP phones. Right? So if someone calls in, your staff member Bob picks up the call on his J-Link phone. He speaks to the customer, and then he presses hold on his VoIP phone. That's when this media file will play. Now, hours is part of main number, but we don't want to get into that right away. Instead, I'm going to click over here on the left under users. Users are people who make and receive calls on your account. People with the blue suit icon, these are your system admins. The gray people icon are your standard users who have very limited access. Up here at the top, you click on Add User. It's going to give you a big pop-up box here shortly. And you fill out the form. The main things to know is that the email address used for login needs to be unique for each user. Right? You know, we're using email addresses. This is how the system communicates with your staff, i.e. password resets, voicemail notification, etc. Again, fill out the rest of the form. By default, the system will automatically create a voicemail box for the user, saving you a step. Here's your option to include the user in the user directory. You can always change that later. You can choose to have email sent to an alternate email address. So if you want those voicemail notifications, etc., to go to a different email address than the one that's used to log in with, you would click a check mark here and then enter that different email address here. Again, this is something you can change at any time. And down here, the last option, send credentials to the user. I do recommend clicking this. So that way, when you click on these two buttons at the bottom, the new user gets an email welcoming them to the Dash account with their login information. Create user only if you're adding one person, create user and add another if you're adding multiple. Once a user is created, you can click on their name. And if you necessary, you can change the name. Here's where you would change their credentials, i.e. their username or their password. You could also send them the password reset email here if they're having trouble on their own for some reason. Here's where you can change their voicemail box PIN number. Here's the option to send emails to an alternate address, and then here's the option to be in the user directory. This pull down by the little person icon here, this lets you change a user into an admin or an admin to a user. Clock icon, this changes the time zone for the user, so their voicemail timestamps are correct for their time zone. Flag icon changes the display language for these web pages for that user. You have English, French, German, or Russian. Ringing timeout defaults to 20 seconds, which is plenty of time to send calls to a wave phone or a landline. If you have a user only using a cell phone, you probably want to increase this to 30, possibly as much as 45. And any changes, click on Save Changes. Extension box, users can have multiple extension numbers if you want them to do so. You would just click on the extension box and then click here to add a new extension and then enter that new extension number and then save changes. Users can have their own phone numbers. Just be aware that a phone number on a user is available 24/7, doesn't have hours of operation or holidays. For the specific steps on adding a phone number, use the link in the support page link, do a search for adding a phone number. Devices, users can have multiple devices if you want them to. In this case, this user has 3 devices, which means calls to them. Right now, by default, all 3 of their devices ring at the same time. We typically recommend adding devices directly to the user itself. That saves you the hassle of having to assign them later. I'm only going to show you adding a soft phone here. Whenever you add a soft phone or web phone, you get this warning message. Please read it once, at least, if not more. And then you get this big box. Now, by default, it starts you off as adding a third-party soft phone, i.e. you're using someone else's soft phone app. That's fine. If you want to use our soft phone, just below where it says View Configuration Guide, there's a toggle that says Use Third-Party Application. You can click on that. Now it says Use VirtualPBX Application. This is the only place you can add a VirtualPBX soft phone to the account, right, directly on a user. But you do this, you would give it a name up here, and then click on Create Device, and then click on Save Changes. Once you click on Save Changes, the user gets an email saying their VirtualPBX soft phone is ready. In the body of the email is the username and password that they would use to log in, and then there's download links so they can download the app to their preferred device. For all the other devices, you can use that support page link, like adding for cell phones or landlines. There's also a link in the show notes for auto provisioning VoIP phones. All right. Next up, user features. The voicemail box. Voicemail boxes can hold up to 100 messages. After that, they are full and cannot accept any more. This is the default settings for a voicemail box. The main thing to know here is that we're attaching the voicemail message to an email notification. Right? So voicemail gets left, we send an email, there'll be an MP3 attachment. Now, with this default setup, this user can still call in to their voicemail box, listen to messages over the phone, and delete them over the phone. They can also log into the web page and go to their user portal and manage their voicemails there. Now, if you have a user who just doesn't do that, or you create a voicemail box that you don't ever want to get full, which we'll get to a little bit later, you also have the option here to delete after notification is sent. Right? So after we send out that email, the system will then automatically delete the voicemail from the system so the voicemail box doesn't get full. The other feature I want to cover is the Follow Me feature. This is for users with multiple devices, where you as an admin would then determine what devices are going to be in use for most of their calls. So first up, you would enable the feature, and then you have to tell the system what kind of devices, or which devices you want to make use of. You would uncheck the devices you want to use. You have a little bar here that shows up, so then you can click and drag it to give those devices a ring time. Oops. I can also click this distribute button, which would equalize the timeout between the two devices. That total ring time is here. It defaults to 120 seconds. You can edit this last box to change that, and then you would click distribute again to equalize out. Or you can, again, adjust the sliders even after that. You can also click and drag these devices to change the order, and then you would click distribute again, and then save changes. One thing to know about the follow me setting, if this user is added to a group, which we'll be getting to shortly, calls from the group ignore the follow me setting completely. All right, call ID number. This is for a feature for users with their own phone number. This allows you to change their outbound call ID to the phone number that's on the user. Fax box, you can choose to have a user have their own fax box. You can then assign a phone number to that fax box or an extension number. I typically recommend using a phone number as that gives them the most versatility. Conference bridge, this is how you would enable the conference feature for the user and set up a PIN number for them, which they can change on the user portal. Call forwarding, this allows you to set up call forwarding for the user. This is also for VoIP phone users. What you can do is set up failover mode, which means if their VoIP phone goes offline for any reason, the system would automatically then forward the number to the phone number you designated. Your users can also just set up or turn call forwarding off or on their own, either directly on their VoIP phone or via the user portal. The failover mode, though, is something that a system admin has to do. Customized call recording. This allows you to record inbound and outbound calls to the user. Music on hold, you can choose to have users have their own hold music file if you want them to. Do not disturb means you, as an admin, you can turn a user on do not disturb or turn them back off or on as necessary. Hot desking is a VoIP phone feature for a shared office environment or hybrid scheduling, basically where people don't have a set desk or VoIP phone that they're sitting at. This allows the user to log in to a VoIP phone that they sit at, and basically using feature codes, you get *11, and then calls will then be sent to them at the device they're sitting. All right, next up, we're going to go to groups. Groups are departments, also referred to as hunt groups or ring groups. Up here at the top, you would click on Add Group. You need to give it a name. You need to give it an extension number. And then you click and drag your staff members that you want to be in the group, and then click on Create Group. Once a group is created, you can click on the name. So if you need to change the name, you can do so. That doesn't harm anything. There's also the group call attempts. This is how many times the system will offer an inbound call to the members of the group. Little arrows at the far right where you can increase or decrease that as necessary. There's your option to delete a group. If you made any changes, click on Save Changes. The members box for a group shows who you've added to the group. So here you see I have just the one member. They have the whole time. I can click here on Add User. So I can add additional people if I want to, for instance. So now they're added. I can click and drag the ring time So I can do a system like this where it's a ring all or blast ringing. I can remove someone if I don't need them here. Along the top here are timestamps. The default time is 120 seconds. I can change that down to 90, for instance. I can also click distribute, so now equalize out over time. Now, the system never skips a user in the group, right? So a call comes in, it's offered to David right off the bat every time. If he's already on a call, right? So he's on one call, call number 2 calls in, he's still offered the call in the group for 30 seconds before it's offered here to Dante. Right. Likewise, if a third call calls in, that third person is waiting for a minute before it's offered to Jeanette. Now, as a system admin, I can click and drag these sliders so there's less hold time for the second and third callers. If you're on the Ultra plan, you also have the option to have the call center, ACD queues, which are an advanced version of the groups. And for the call center, for example, the system will skip a user that's on a call. It says, oh, you're busy, I'm moving on to the next available person. So that way the inbound caller isn't waiting on hold unnecessarily. Any changes you make click on Save Changes. And remember, calls from the group ignore the follow me settings on the user level. Extensions. Groups can have multiple extension numbers. Just click on Add Extension and enter the extension number. Groups can also have their own phone number. Just like under a user, though, phone number is available 24/7. And then here's your option to either add from spare or buy new. Again, use the support page about adding a phone number. Group features. We'll run through these fairly quickly here. First up is ringback. This is essentially hold music for the inbound caller as they wait for someone to pick up. So you would click up here to enable, upload an MP3 or .wav file up to 1 megabyte in size. The system will not loop the file for you. So you want to make sure that the file will play at least as long as the whole total ring time you have for the group. Right. So the default ring time for a group is 120 seconds. So the safe starting point is have your music file play for 2 minutes. Next action. This is if your staff members aren't able to pick up the call, what do you want the system to do with that caller? So you click up here to enable, and then you have a pull down. This is to other things on your system. So another group, a voicemail box, a specific user, device, etc. Allow call forward. If you enable this, that means your users can make use of call forwarding. And then caller ID prepend. This is for your VoIP phone users. Where you can either have additional text or numbers show up on your staff members' VoIP phones in front of the inbound caller ID. So if, say, customer Mary's calls into the support group, rings to your staff member Bob's phone, on Bob's J-Link phone, he would see like the word support and then customer Mary's phone number on his phone. And I'm not sure what's going on here. All right. So now we'll go over here to main number. First section we have are your main company numbers. You can always unassign a number, which just moves it into a spare number status. Down here, you can add from spare or buy new. The little gear icon, so you can update caller ID, E911, or prepend. Once you have main phone numbers assigned, you can choose either to be open 24/7, right, 24-hour open office, or custom office hours. If you choose office hours, or custom office hours, excuse me, For each day of the week that you're open, put a check mark in front of that day, and then choose your open hours in 24-hour or military time. Down here at the bottom, you also have the option to be closed for lunch at the same time every day. If you choose this, just put a check mark here and enter your lunch time in 24-hour time, and then click on Save Changes. Office holidays, if you're closed for holidays, put a check mark here. Then on the right, click on Add Holiday to add a holiday. You have single day, date range, or advanced. Each one of these creates a new row. Right, so you just need to give it a name and then fill out the boxes to the right, right? So for a single day, it's easy, just month and date, save changes, date range, a start date, and an end date, and then save changes. Advanced, a little more complicated, give it a name, choose the month, and then the second pull down, you have first through fifth, as well as last, and then the day of the week, and then save changes. If you need to remove a holiday, click on the little trash icon at the far right of it, and then save changes. Incoming call handling. This is how system is going to handle your calls from your main numbers during my open hours, my after hours, or my holidays. If I had chosen to be closed for lunch, I would also have a lunch hours tab. Likewise, if I said I was only open 24/7, right, then I'd only have the open hours tab. Now, during my open hours, I chose to have calls come to my virtual receptionist. There's a link here that I can click on. Opens up a big old box. On the left is my main menu. These are what people press on their phone to navigate through my phone system. I click on Add Route to add an additional option. The first pull down, you have 0 through 9, as well as the star key and the default action. The second pull down are things on your system, users, groups, etc. Greetings, this is where you say thank you for calling and then give instructions, right? What buttons to press to go to where. Text to speech, you type it in, the system reads it back off in a computerized robotic voice. Upload your own file, .wav, .mp3, up to 1 megabyte in size. A file that's already on the system. So this pull down will show all your media files, i.e. when you switch from holidays back to your normal greeting. You can record over the phone. Now, by default, the system wants you to use a VoIP phone on the account because it knows it's part of the account, so it's safe. If you want to use a like landline or cell phone, then you need to come down to settings and then choose where it says allow outside recording and turn that on. Now, you still need this PIN number, which is specific to this time of day, right? So this PIN number only works Monday through Friday during my open hours. Right, so if I called in on Saturday, this PIN number would not work. But then the system will walk you through recording the greeting over the phone. It is replacing the greeting that's already in place. Right, so when I call in, the system is going to play back my greeting that I have in place. I enter the PIN number, and then I'm overwriting that greeting that I just heard. Professional recording services, when you click order, this opens up a new tab, takes you to Snap Recordings, a completely separate company. You basically order through them. They email you the completed file, so then you would just come back up here to upload your own file. Settings. Under settings here, first up we have number of retries on missed dial. This is how many times your inbound caller can make a mistake. This instance, I have 1 retry, which means my customer can make 2 attempts before the system says we're done. Dialing timeout, this is how much time the system listens for additional button presses, i.e. people are trying to enter in a valid extension number. I'm going to covered allow outside recording. By default, allow dialing extensions is enabled. This means if someone enters a valid extension number, the system will transfer the call. If you turn this off, that means my inbound caller can only press the options that are under my main menu. Anything else is an invalid entry. And then the last option is suppress the playing of invalid entry. So on that final attempt, the system will say, we did not recognize your entry, and then either transfer the call if there's a default action or end the call and say goodbye. Especially in that case where you're transferring to a default action, like I have up here, then I would probably want to turn that turn on suppressing the playing of invalid entry. So that way, on that final attempt, the system just says transferring your call. Any changes you make to your main menu, to your greetings or your settings, you want to click save here at the bottom, right? And then save changes under incoming call handling. All right, oops. Second option here for after hours, I'm using the live operator answer option. And this just means in this first pull down, I'm selecting something on my system where I'm giving somebody or a group of people a chance to answer the call first. If they're not able to, then I'm sending them to the virtual receptionist, in this case, my after hours virtual receptionist. So I'm going to have different menu options and a greeting, but beyond that, it's the same idea as we just covered. During my holidays, I selected this option here. This first pull down is something on your system, generally speaking, so users, groups, media file, etc. I chose the last option, which is under other, which is skip the voicemail. And then the second pull down, I choose a voicemail box on the system. So during my holidays, I'm just saying, don't ring anybody, just send the caller to voicemail. Main conference number, you can have multiple conference room numbers if you want. They all go to the same conference rooms. Once you do have a conference number, you can edit the greeting, which is a text-to-speech greeting. Click to enable and then type in your greeting. Even if you leave this disabled, when you call your conference number, it still says welcome to the conference and then asks you to enter the PIN number, or the conference room number and then the PIN number. Main fax box, you can have the main fax box number, and once you do, you can edit the fax box. Inbound notifications, in the box to the right, enter in an email address, and anytime you get a fax, an email sent to that address, letting them know that a new fax has arrived, and there'll be a PDF attachment. One thing to keep in mind, if someone dials your fax box number and then hangs up, this email still gets an email notification saying, hey, there was a failed fax attempt. Permissions, or email permissions, excuse me. This is designed to either put in an email address or, as shown here, a company email domain. In the case of a company email domain, that means anyone at VirtualPBX can send out a fax on this account, even if they're not a user on the account. To do so, they would create an email from their virtualpbx.com email address, and in the to field, they put +1 area code and phone number, no spaces, dashes, or parentheses, and then the account realm, right? The @ blah, 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 blah. And then they would then make attach a PDF or TIFF file and click send. Right? The system only looks at the to field, the from field, and the attachment. Anything you type in the subject line or in the body of the email does not get transmitted. So if you need to have a cover sheet, you want to include that as part of your attachment. Only one attachment per email, so make sure you remove any signature files, attachments, or anything of that nature. Also, only one destination email address per email. All right, auto attendance. This is an add-on or planned feature. This allows you to create multiple auto attendants. This is normally done because you want to do something like submenuing, meaning you want like one for English, two for Spanish, or you have multiple businesses and you want them on the same account, and each of those businesses would have their own phone numbers and own greetings. Up at the top, you click on Add Attendant, give it a name, give it an extension number. Once you've created it, it defaults to be not available in main menu, meaning it's a standalone attendant, separate business. Right? If I click on the toggle, now it's available in main menu, meaning it's a menu option under my virtual receptionist, or it can be. Right? I can also make it a next action option off of my groups. Auto attendants can have their own phone numbers. If we click on the wrench icon here under settings, Open hours, after hours, and holidays match what we set up under the main number, but they're all going to the virtual receptionist, so you need to set up a greeting and menu options. The device tab shows all your devices on the account. Red means it's unregistered, so we can't send calls to them. Green, we can send calls to them. Up here at the top, you can add devices directly here, but you can't assign them to users. One thing I do want to show is the soft phone here. Right, you still get that warning message. And then you get the big box, but there's no toggle here at the bottom. Right, so that's why you can't. The main reason you can't add it as a VirtualPBX soft phone is that the VirtualPBX soft phone needs that email address to send their credentials to. And you only can do that under a user, not under the devices. You can also click the little red shiny icon under Edit. There we go. Under Advanced and Emergency Caller ID, you can choose a phone number that you've assigned an address to a specific VoIP phone for the purposes of 911, right? So if your staff member works from home, you can assign their home address to one of your phone numbers, then assign it to their VoIP phone so that if they ever have to dial 911 from the VoIP phone, their address gets sent to emergency services, not your corporate address. Greetings, this shows your media files on the account, right? Name of the file, pretty straightforward. Source, TTS means text-to-speech, meaning you created it under your virtual receptionist or one of your auto attendants. Upload means you uploaded the file. Recording means it was recorded over the phone. The play icon, you can play it back directly in your browser to see if it's still useful or necessary. You also have the option to download it if for some reason it doesn't play in your browser. I also recommend this for your main greeting that you use for most of the year, so that way you don't have to worry, you have a backup copy, right? And that way, especially during holidays when you might be changing greetings, you can always restore it back. You have the edit icon here, a little wrench. So you can change the name so you can make the file easier for you to recognize, or delete it if you no longer need it. Oops. Did not mean to click there. Numbers starts you off on your numbers in use tab, which basically shows you where your numbers are assigned. You have the little gear icon where you can update the caller ID, E911, or prepend. Spare numbers shows your numbers that you're not currently using. If you wanted to remove these numbers from your account, you put the check mark in front of it, and then the option to delete shows up here. So you would click on that, and then click on delete number to confirm, and then it's removed from your account. The port process here, this moves a phone number from one carrier to us, right? So like say you want to move a number from AT&T to us, you would click on this port process. Please use the support page link to look up the porting guide for the complete steps there. Voicemail boxes, this shows all your voicemail boxes on the account. Anything with an entry under the user is one of your user voicemail boxes. You can create your own voicemail boxes up here at the top. This is what you would do for like your groups or call center. Give it a name, give it a voicemail box number, give it a PIN number, click on create voicemail box. One thing to know is the voicemail box number is not the same as an extension number. So if I dial 3333, I am not getting to this voicemail box. Now, you can set up a voicemail box as a menu option from your virtual receptionist, and then it would go here. The voicemail box number and PIN number, that's what you would need to log into the voicemail box to listen to messages or change the greeting. Under Advanced, we'll start here with greeting media. You can upload a media file to play as the voicemail box greeting. You click upload, .wav, .mp3 up to 1 megabyte size. So click select file to find the file and then click upload. There's also a pull down here, which will show you the existing files you have on the account if you have a just a generic file used for everybody. You see that there's two options here, media and temporary. The temporary is for that out of office or vacation message. If only the temporary, or actually, if both are selected, only the temporary file plays, right? The media file won't play again until temporary is set back to none. Recipients, voicemail boxes, your user voicemail boxes have a built-in recipient, right? The email address used for login. But at any voicemail box, you can come here and then click add recipient and then add additional email addresses. Keep clicking add until you're done. And then once you are done, click on save changes. So after you have recipients and a media file under advanced, you can go to options and you can click on already set up. So that way it won't be changed. You would need to uncheck this if you want to change the greeting over the phone, however. Then down here, especially for voicemail boxes that you create, you want to make sure that the attached messages to email is checked. If you have a voicemail box that you don't want to get full, like this one is my support voicemail box, so I wouldn't want that to get full, then I would put a check mark here to delete after notification. So that way, after that email sent out, the voicemail is deleted and I don't have to worry about it becoming full. Text forward is an add-on feature. This allows me to have phone numbers accept an inbound text message and forward it on. You have to select a spare number, and then you can use an email address or a webhook. You can use the show notes for the specific instructions. Virtual extension is a plan-specific feature. This allows you to add additional extension numbers without having to add full users. The limitations of that is because they're not users, they can't be added to groups or into call queues. They can, however, be a menu option off of your virtual receptionist, and because they're an extension number, they can also be dialed directly from their virtual receptionist, even if they're not a menu option. They are limited to one device, and it cannot be the VirtualPBX cell phone because, again, they don't have an email address. Call logs shows your call history on the account. You have today, this week, this month,